got your antibody testing. Literature for kids. Literature for people who use drugs. Teach them how to clean their works.
I shot dope 18 years, and I didn't come from that type of background. I came from a real nice middle-class family, very religious. But I pursued an area of drug addiction in 1966 all the way to 1983, and I'm a disabled vet from Nam. I was a Panther during the 60s. I was involved in the, all the militant efforts that blacks went through before King and after the assassination of King. During all this time, I did a lot of shooting dope and getting high.
No. You ain't? You straight? Yeah. Okay then, all right. Thanks a lot now.
I met Lee in 1983 at the VA hospital in Decatur. We met while in treatment. We got clean in 83.
I started using drugs back in 1966, I think it was. And I guess I was about 14 years old. I started drinking. I've always been an extremist. So I went from drinking to pills, barbiturates, from that to marijuana, on up the ladder to IV drugs. And then all of a sudden it started causing me a lot of pain. Then it became an obsession. I would have to use, I don't know if it was physical. I know when I was using heroin, I had some physical addictions to that, but I don't know if the other drugs I used were more physical or mental, because I felt like I had to have them. And I would steal money from my wife. She may send me to pay the rent. I wouldn't do it. I'd mess up the money and then hide for a couple of days and then come back home with this big fantastic story about what happened. And she would believe me, which was something else that I didn't understand. But now today I realize that a lot of times family members are in denial about what you're going through as much as you are, because they don't want to believe that this can be happening to you, and they hope that it's going to go away. Just like I hoped that my addiction would go away, but it didn't.
You get some free information from the Street King Star. Want you to practice some safe sex. Want you to practice some safe sex. You try to use a condom all the time. I'm gonna give you some condoms, some free condoms. Practice some safe sex. You know anybody shoot dope, anything, let us know sometime when you see us out. We got some free coupons for treatment. We're recovering addicts ourselves, and this is what we do now. This is Lee, and I'm Sterling, and this is what we do.
I don't know, I went into treatment 6 different times, and a lot of people have asked me what made me get clean that time. The only answer I can come up with is that a power greater than me just stepped in and said, well, this poor fool, he can't do it on his own. Maybe we better help him, And I went in the VA hospital and I met Sterling and got introduced to a 12-step program, and people were talking about not getting high. Now, I had ran into this same environment 6 other times, 5 other times, and I didn't hear what they were talking about. They had the answer then. I didn't hear it. But for some reason, I was willing to listen at that particular time, and I was beat. I was actually beat. It was like it finally occurred to me that I couldn't get high, not even a little bit. Maybe somebody can drink a beer after work. I wasn't one of those people. I had to drink a case and then find out where the marijuana was and find out where the heroin was, and on and on and on. Yeah, so when me and Sterling met, we sort of like made a commitment that we were going to stay clean. And God knows I've made commitments all my life. I never thought I would keep one of them, but for some reason, and I still think it was a power greater than both of us, God, decided that, well, maybe these two need to be together. Maybe they can help somebody just like them.
Have you got your prenatal card? Your prenatal care?
Uh-huh.
You have?
I would say that everybody out there now who uses drugs, IV, know about AIDS. Okay, they are aware of AIDS. But I also think that the denial associated with their addiction won't allow a lot of people to accept the risk reduction that they have to get involved in.
When you shooting dope or you using your IV and you just don't give a damn about nothing. And AIDS comes on the scene and it's just not an issue. It doesn't hold any value. I'm not gonna do anything that's gonna give me any pain. And my ego tells me that drugs allows me temporary relief. I have no knowledge of AIDS because I have no knowledge of the truth, and that is that I don't believe in you. Now, if I don't believe in you, I don't believe in nothing you tell me. There is a wall put up in subcultural black IV drug users where everything goes to hell except the cooker and the spike.
You can tell somebody not to share a needle, and they can process that. You know, they're not stupid. You know, they can process the fact that if I share a needle with Sterling and he's got AIDS, then he'll give it to me. What happens is that when their addiction calls for drugs, and if I leave the house and I don't have a needle on me, or if I do have a needle and I can't buy any dope that day and I run into Sterling and he's got dope and he don't have a needle, then we're going to share and pray that we can get by one more time. Fear has no bearing. Maybe on a good day when you're not high and you're thinking okay, and you realize how much dope you shot last night and you say, could have died, you know. But for some reason, it's not enough to deter you from getting high. OD, and it's amazing, when people OD off drugs, people want to know where they got that dope from so they can buy some. You know, this man just died off of it, so it must be good. You know, so there, you know, fear doesn't come into play in that. You know, either he didn't know how to do it, or he shot a little too much, you know, but I know how to do it, so I'll get a better feeling off of it. With AIDS, you've got to consider how you die. If you OD off dope, you're gone like that. But if you come down with AIDS, it's a process. You know, there are going to be days when you're going to be sick and in the hospital and you can't even get high to forget about it. You know, it's like it's with you all the time. I know when I was using it, I didn't want to suffer. You know, that probably went more towards getting me clean, and it keeps me clean today. It's not thinking about dying. You know, somebody told me once, and I say this all the time, they said, you know dope will kill you. And I said, man, y'all promised me that for 16 years, and it didn't kill me. It never did. But it put me in the penitentiary, and I suffered. I went through 2 divorces, and I suffered. You know, I was degraded because I had to go and beg people for dope, and I did things that I probably will never mention in my life to get drugs. I said, so it wasn't the death, it was the suffering. And I think that's the difference with AIDS.
Why are you working so much?
Well, I'm trying to make a little money. See, I was behind in that child support thing. And I thought I was going to have to have them call you. And,
get it straight.
Yeah, get it straight. So I'm trying to...
There's certain things that black males are instilled, they have instilled inside of their so-called personality and their makeup, and I center it around the ego. And I centered around a whole lot of fear and pain and anger and resentment. And I began to recognize the fact that I have to accept that I was born into a white male's world. And I think a lot of black men, I know myself in particular, I never recognized that. I always covered that. I knew that it existed from the Panthers and different other militant issues, but I never knew how it affected self. And it's not until I got clean in this past really year that I began to examine, you know, my egotistical ways, you know, and how I feel about my wife and my child. And what I found out was that I just don't, all the times I don't want to love, you know. I want things to center around me, you know. And this is why you find a lot of black men in the penitentiary. I feel, you know, this is why, because they centered around that ego.
Me being a black male, you know, I guess it's like a computer. You program it, and it does certain things in certain situations, and it's programmed. And if you want it to do something different, then you got to reprogram it, you know. So see, I used one set of principles for my whole life before I got clean. And if you said something about them, then I could debate with you intellectually or whatever kind of way and make my point and tell you whose fault it was that I was in the position I was in, how sad it was that people treated me like that, how bad it was that I didn't go to college, and how sickening it was that I had to live like that. But the thing that I didn't say was, what could I do about it? You know. So see, I had to be reprogrammed to know that, you know, all that other stuff may be true, but is there something that you can do about it? You know, whose problem is this? Is this society's problem, or is it your problem?
Okay, but you got to do that, or else I'm gonna see you back again.
Well, you can't. I'm gonna stick with my me. See, I ain't planning on coming back, cause this new way of life is better for me. Okay, take this.
Good to see you now. Sure have changed. Yeah. Where the insanity starts or at what point it originates. But that's been an ongoing cycle that we've noticed. In other words, middle-class blacks on a large and on a whole are not represented when it comes to doing work in the community out here. And you can see it for yourself. You can see what shape is in. We could take you to 7 or 8 different projects, all like this, and you would get the same type of you would see. You know, and your middle-class blacks are like, you know, no, don't give me a condom in public, don't let me see it.
If you go inside a neighborhood to help some people, or go anywhere to help them, if you communicate with them on a regular basis, friendship is established. Once friendship is established, you lay the groundwork for some miracles to take place between human beings. And they experience different things about, I didn't know you were like that. I didn't know you thought that way about me. They began to talk about caring. Well, I will, and they trust you. But when you remove yourself and you still talk about these issues of caring and trusting, then you just talking a lie.
Yeah. Some of the principles have eroded since we grew up. You know, when you talk about putting drugs in the hands of a 10-year-old kid to sell, there's something seriously wrong here, okay? You know, we've never been moral giants or, you know, or you can't even say the word saint and Lee in the same breath, you know, but I know most of the guys who we grew up with, if a kid even asked us about drugs or even asked us about a cigarette, or if they even stayed out on the corner too late, we'd run them home. Mm-hmm. We'd kick their little butts. Mm-hmm. You know, that's long gone. How you think somebody get AIDS?
I don't be on the TV.
You don't have to be on TV, but I want to know what you know about AIDS. How do people get AIDS? He asked me about some condoms. He asked me about some condoms. And I sit down, I had a talk with him, and he told me that he had a girlfriend that he was having sex with, okay? I was shocked. Eventually, I gave him some. I gave him to him. And you know what I told him? I told him if I ever caught him messing around with a little girl, I was going to kill him. But I told him if I don't catch him, that he needs to use those condoms. Some people might say that's a double message. I don't know. I think we have to give our kids more than just one message. We got to consider what's going to happen if they don't take our first advice. Because we're betting their lives. We're betting their lives that they're going to listen at us and say, well, my dad told me not to do this, so I'm not going to do it. I don't think it's real to even think that way. I think we need to give them the whole message, and that is, we want you to make good choices, but if you don't, then there are some other things you can do to protect yourself, plain and simple.
You never can tell who you might run into. This is an HIV antibody test that you can go and get tested freely. And if you know anybody that's using any IV drugs, kind of refer them to the Street Team Star, and we got free coupons for 30-day treatment, okay? Thanks a lot, yeah? Well, let me
but I don't think that there is any cause any more important, or that there's a sense of urgency anywhere when it comes to AIDS and drug addiction. It's like they're right together. When we talk to people on the street, one of the biggest problems that we have, and I suspect all other teams in this country, is what do we do when the beds fill up? What do we refer these people to? It's like you give somebody a solution and they get there and the door is closed. And what are they going to do? They're going to do what they've been doing.
What I'm saying overall, it's kind of silly for the government or anyone to allow so much money to be given for AIDS, but not to be focused in the environment itself. See, we want to give money to all these agencies for all these causes, but what about planting something in the middle of each breeding ground that exists? See, those people are not going to go, we are not going to travel way down to the hospital because I think that I might be coming down with some symptoms that they talked about that I heard from the STAR team. I don't know, I'm not going to worry about it. But if it's a center in every one of those little breeding grounds, in every project, and like there's a recreation center, there's a center there, there's 24 hours. I mean, change is inevitable. You see it, they will see it. They will know it's there. They will go around there just to talk. Blacks are not going to allow you in their neighborhood to live there or stay there or work there over a period of time without knowing what in the hell you want, what you got, and how long you're going to be here, and who sent you. And is it free or what? So that means if you want to give free health care and assistance, you got to plant those things inside to show you care. There's got to be street teams and health centers in each one of those high-risk areas.
AIDS is the spotlight on what's been wrong all the time that we've turned away from and ignored. I think it's deplorable that we don't have more treatment centers. I don't think there's any excuse why the penal system, which is supposedly deal with rehabilitation, not to have some avenue for treatment of people in the prison system when 80% of the people down there are in there for drug-related crimes. So you make them do their time, and then you set them back out on the street, and what do you expect them to do? The things that they were programmed to do.
It's
vicious. You're asking me to change my whole life because of some thing you calling AIDS. That matters very little to me. And I don't know where you got it from, whether it's the truth or it's a lie. But dope comes first. What's real to me is that it's hard for me to make a living. And every time I get up, I get knocked down. And I see folks who do right, and they don't get nowhere. So, to hell with this package. And they call the package life. So, you know, so you're dealing with, you're dealing with something that's really hardcore.
And I've seen a lot of people get off drugs, and that's why it's personal with me, because there are people out there who don't know that you can get off drugs. They think it's a myth. They think that you either got to go to church and be saved, and that scares a drug addict. That's like one extreme to the other. They just don't know that you can stay clean just one day at a time, and that there are a lot of people who are doing that, and that they get together and do it, and that you can't do it by yourself.
This is something that I'm glad to see that Black Ivy drug users see about the church, is that they don't trust the church. They don't trust the black church. The black church to them is full of facade, it's full of glamour. Whenever political officials or health officials want some commercials or something done, they run and get a black minister or a black doctor, and they think that that's supposed to show black folks some reality, they've already separated themselves from us. They're not even united. I'm not talking about Catholic, Baptist, Presbyterian, Methodist. I'm talking about the human life. Do you want to give some money out that plate which you pass around to build a treatment center or a halfway house or someplace for health for black? That's what I'm talking about. Anything else you run down to me is game, collar and all. Shove it.
It's not a racial issue. It's not a moral issue. It's a health issue. And that's the way you have to deal with it. There are a lot of black politicians in this city. I don't hear a lot of them talking about AIDS and drug treatment and what we can do. When you talk on a national level, I don't hear George Bush talking about treatment centers. I hear him talking about cosmetic issues like, let's stop the drugs from coming in the country. That's not real.
Or just say no.
That's not real. People have already said yes. What are you going to do about those people? It's real important to say no, and I think that's a strong message for our kids. But what about the people who said yes? What do we do with them? I don't have any doubt that we're making a difference out here. I really don't. From when I started last June up until now, it's a whole different feeling. We weren't getting a whole lot of rejection to begin with, but it's like now we get even less. People want to know what's going on. A lot of people are starting to use condoms. A lot of people are starting to come up to us for information. A lot of people are starting to go and get antibody tests to see if they've been exposed to the virus. People are changing their behavior. But like I said, we got a long way to go, a long way to go.
I see the change. I was catching the train to work this morning, and a fellow who I had treated walked up behind me and stuck his finger in my back and said, "Hey, this is a stick up." And turned around, and that same fella now got 7 months clean. And Lee and I did the VA meeting for 4 years, and he had been coming there, and he had been to the VA 3 times, but he made it on the 4th time. And I asked him, I said, "How you doing?" And he said, it's up and down, it's life, but I'm all right. I'm hanging in there, it's all right. He's dealing with reality.